The Wes Penra Papers. A Journey Through the Multiverse. The Second Level of Learning. http://wespenry.com. Appendix A, Paper Number 2. Updates on the remarkable Michael Lee Hill case Part 2. The World Teacher of the New Era. By Wes Penra, Saturday, November 17, 2012. http://wespenry.com. Part 2. 4. Michael Lee Hill being severely beaten up not to talk, and CBS interview being tampered with during broadcast. Not everything has gone smoothly for Michael Lee Hill, as we know, in order for him to get his information out. We started out with discussing how 2 of his major projects were tampered with to such a degree that they never happened, but that's not all. A pretty severe incident happened in 2007 when all this was relatively new to the media and the East Lake UFOs were more or less only known to the locals. While I was gathering information for this series of papers, Michael told me he had had some quite unpleasant encounters with so-called black ops, black operations, intimidating him to stop what he's doing, but never more so than in 2007, when he was attacked out of the blue and had his jaw shattered in 3 places, in an attempt to silence him, only 1 week before he had his first CBS interview. Michael says it almost worked. When he came home from the hospital with his jaw all wired up, he couldn't even talk. He literally had to relearn how to speak, because his lower jaw was, and still is, in a new arrangement. Shaken up and disappointed, he was going to call and cancel the interview when something came over him and he thought, F it. Even if I have to mumble through the interview, I will not back down. So, the CBS team came to his house, set up the equipment, and the interview started. Michael, in a bad shape, mumbled through it all, but that's not everything. All of a sudden, in the middle of the interview, at the exact moment when they were going to broadcast the UFO footage, the CBS equipment started going haywire, and there was a total, and unexplainable, power outlet. Even the CBS News anchors were freaked out and actually mentioned on the show that it certainly seemed like they were tampered with. Fortunately, they got through the interview. So, Michael sat there with his TV on, and his jaw all wired, but still excited to watch the program, when something strange interrupted the whole interview. I'm sure the reader can imagine how Michael felt at that moment. Thankfully, says Michael, I had the tape rolling. This is the actual broadcast.
At 11. There's your bus, David.
Hey, sure, there's something strange in the neighborhood. An East Lake man says he sees UFOs and has tape to prove it. 19 Action News reporter Harry Boomer live with the story, new at 11.
David, just the name Lake Erie conjures up the images of the unexplainable. What flies over the dark expanses of this great lake, or why?
What in the... If you believe... You're the first ever see this footage. Flying saucer.
If you're interested in this subject.
Came in from Cleveland, came right over top of it. Right over my...
All righty, that young man over in East Lake told me that he had all kinds of video. We had some of it for you, just all kinds of lights in that. If you believe or not believe, it really doesn't change the reality. You know me, I'm always game for a challenge. So, hey, if you're out there, beam me up.
It's never good when you actually see the ones and the zeros, so...
That's right. There's something...
got a problem there. We'll fix it.
Something spooky going on with that tape. I wonder if there's a connection.
I know. They
Jeff.
didn't want to see it, I guess. So.
Anything on the dual Doppler out there?
No, I mean,
Afterwards,
now we have...
CBS told Michael that something shut down the whole actual studio computer system when they tried to broadcast the interview. A few years later, Michael was interviewed again by CBS, because by then his story had grown to such a degree that his footage had gained massive attention in the mainstream media, to a point that it had gone viral. One video alone has over 1 million viewers on YouTube. In his next interview with CBS, they actually bring up what happened last time they interviewed Michael and tried to air it.
All right, are there really UFOs? Better yet, are they flying over Lake Erie? An East Lake man claims there are, and he has the tapes to prove it. 19 Action News anchor Lena Lai, live in the Newsplex with the story, new at 11.
Yes, Denise, you might remember the last time we tried to broadcast some of Michael Lee Hill's UFO video, our computer system crashed. Coincidence? Tonight, barring any alien interruptions, here's Hill's latest home video that may make a believer out of you. What in the world is this, or should we say out of this world? A pulsating orb of light hovering over Lake Erie near the East Lake shore.
Unbelievable.
Michael Lee Hill behind the camera. The UFO researcher says without a doubt what you're seeing are
Extraterrestrials?
no doubt about
No doubt about it. One showing up next to
The video, shot last fall, just put on YouTube and already's gotten more than 660,000 hits.
people want the truth. I think we're ready, and it just doesn't really go along with our government's plans.
There's something strange in the neighborhood.
When 19 Action News tried to show you previous footage 2 years ago, Hill finds the technical snafus no coincidence.
Something spooky going on with that tape.
Okay, I know what you're thinking. Why don't these aliens just show up for everyone to see? Go ahead, park your spaceship right in front of our 19 Action News studios here, and I will personally hand any little green man this microphone. Seriously, enough with the appearances on home video shot by a select few. Hill has an answer for that.
We couldn't have the outcome that I believe they intend, which is for us to become a galactic society and a peaceful society.
The way he sees it, the alien appearances are as beautiful as they are peaceful, and a sudden visit would be as traumatic to us as 9/11, like a terrorist attack. But he says time will reveal all truth.
They will. They will.
Ooh, and no computer glitches. Hill says the same orbs have been spotted in London, Mexico, Canada, California, and Texas. His recent findings will be a part of a History Channel special on UFO hunters set to air next month. Live in the Newsplex, Lena Lai, 19 Action News.
Beam me up, Lena.
Michael told me while he was sending me this material that it's easy to imagine how scared he was when this second interview was going to be broadcast. As he put it, I was expecting a knock on the door from the men in black or something. Nothing happened this time and the CBS interview aired just fine, but that didn't calm Michael down. The day after the broadcast, he was still extremely nervous due to what had happened the first time. He thought these people might come and beat him up, and perhaps kill him, after the fact. So, he decided that in case something would happen to him now or in the near future he needed to get his information in the hands of someone he trusted. The one person he respected the most in the UFO field was David Sareda. So the very next day after the second broadcast, he sent 4 loaded DVDs with all his footage to David. He thought that even if the Black Ops people would kill him, it would only show that he was legit, because Sareda had his footage. David Sareda ended up using some of it in the Dan Aykroyd Unplugged on UFOs documentary, and that was the beginning of a partnership between David Sareda and Michael Lee Hill, which led to that Michael wrote the music to David's excellent film, From Here to Andromeda, and David used some of Michael's footage in it as well. So, after all the mishaps, it ended well. But like Michael said to me, if the Black Ops people who broke his jaw had succeeded with intimidating him to the degree that he would have cancelled the first CBS broadcast, none of what followed would have occurred, and his partnership with David Sareda would never have happened. The fact that these people attacked him was the reason why Michael got so much attention, and if he hadn't been so scared for his safety, he would never have sent the DVDs to David Sareda. Here are Michael's own words, that is how the light works. Their tricks are not working anymore, and in fact, they backfire and result in exactly what they are trying to prevent. Even more so than if they do not do anything. Ain't that the truth? 5. Michael's story is taking off. Michael has a lot of gems in his archives due to all the sightings he's had, and the research he's did. As an example, here is an actual broadcast from Cleveland, Ohio radio station 1100 WTAM where both Michael and David Sareda attended. Afterwards, the DJ gave Michael a CD with the calls coming into the station during a Lake Erie UFO mass sighting, and it is also well documented that the military was all over this area, as well as FEMA. Michael created a video with those actual calls.
There was a period of time, we did the shows on it, where there was so much activity in the skies or Northeast Ohio, it was mind-boggling. There was contrails, there was fighter jets. I'm going to play some of the calls for you. There was different weird sightings in the sky. The military was on the move.
What I look for is expert witness testimony to the phenomena, but then you get people like Michael Lee Hill right here in Cleveland, and when I saw his footage, in fact, I just saw some footage last night where you see possibly 30 to 100 feet above the lake, you see this saucer with all these colored lights spinning around, hovering, making no noise at all. And I was just filming at the Edwards Air Force Base Air Show last weekend, and even the B-2 bomber, the F-117, some of the quieter planes, you can hear those things over the noise of the ripples on the lake. Well, because they're loud. This thing isn't making any noise. And then you see this other disc come hovering up to it, stops and hovers 30 feet above this thing, making no noise, and visits it for only a few seconds, and then takes off. I mean, there's nothing in the arsenal of our military aircraft that can do that unless you're looking at Harrier jets, right, which are one of the noisiest bastards you'll ever hear.
Now, Michael, you're from Eastlake.
Yes.
You have this film, right?
Yeah.
Get closer to the microphone, please.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've been filming UFOs here for about 3 years. About 3 years ago, I seen a craft over the lake, and that sparked my interest. I just went down any nice night and brought my camcorder with me and started filming. So I've accumulated quite a library, and that's how I met David. I was a big fan of David's work. So I sent him some of my footage, and he ended up using 4 of my clips on the Dan Aykroyd.
Now, I am not questioning Michael at all, okay? Mm-hmm. I'm asking a question here as a talk show host. Mm-hmm. How do you know that the film isn't doctored? How do you, because with today's technology, you know what I'm trying to say, David, there? You have to be very careful?
You have to be very careful because with today's technology, people can doctor stuff. But with 20 years experience personally as a professional photographer, and also because I'm a filmmaker and an editor, I know what something looks like when it's fake. I mean, you could fake me. If you were going to spend, $100,000 and up on your special effects, but you think of a guy who's, a guitar player, a musician, who's got a little video camera, who doesn't even edit film. What would he do to fake this? What would he need to fake it? Well, where it gets really difficult is when you're hand holding a shot and the background moves consistently in the shot with the object, the UFO. Now, if you put another layer in the editing bay on top of that and you put in a UFO to match the movement of those two frames, the frame of the UFO moving with the background consistently so they're never out of phase, that's the first thing I would look for. If they were out of phase, I would say, okay, that's another layer. That's another layer in the editing bay. But they're totally in phase. When you see the corners of the shot move, the UFO moves consistently with that. And that means you have to have some very expensive equipment to fake something like that.
How long ago, Michael, did you take this? This is over Lake Erie in Eastlake, right?
Yes. It's going on to this day, actually. I've filmed stuff as recent as a month ago. And
tell us a little bit about it real quick, because we've got to go to traffic.
Did you just pick a random day to go down there?
No.
You live on the water?
Yeah, I live about 2 good rock throws from the lake. And so about 3 years ago, I seen a craft. And as I said, I just started going down to the lake and watching the sunset. And I'd just hang out afterwards. And if a big ball of light went by, I'd film it, And
well, give us one of the weirdest experiences you filmed down there in Eastlake.
Probably one of the weirdest ones was one of the clips that he used in the Dan Aykroyd film, and it was just a big cloud, glowing cloud-looking apparition.
Different colors?
This one was glowing almost like a blacklight color, like a bluish purple color, and had a strobing light that was on the left-hand side of it, and that was a strange one because it was almost like a telepathic communication. I just had this feeling. Something said, you need to go outside and bring your camera. And when I went out, it was there, and I filmed it.
It's very translucent looking, the shot he's talking about, so you can almost see right through it.
We only got a couple minutes before we go to news. I want to play this. When I was doing my show, when all this activity was going on in the sky about 1.5 years ago, These are some of the people that called in. I'll play real quick for you here, okay? Eric, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
How's it going, Mike?
Good, Eric.
Hey, I'm living down here in Jackson Township by the Akron-Canton Airport.
Yeah.
And I was seeing like 11, 12 vapor trails. But I was driving, and I see this low-flying jet. Doesn't look like any of the jets that we have now in the military. I'm just a recently retired Marine, so I kind of know a little bit about the air power that we have. And I just saw it heading due south, and then it banked right and made a course for the southeast.
Is this all unusual?
This is something I haven't seen.
And how long you been there? A while?
Yeah, I've lived here, almost a year now.
Yeah.
I see another vapor trail that's got a turn in it.
So would you agree with me something's going on?
I didn't see anything this morning because I was at work at this time.
Yeah.
But it's kind of...
Wait a minute. Hold on right here. Was this one here?
Yeah, that one right there.
WTAM 1100, you're in the air.
Mike, it's Craig, first-time caller.
Thank you, Craig.
Hey, I'm on 71 North, and I see something right now. I'm just passing Mansfield.
Yes?
And there's a small black spot, and it probably would be over... Oh, wait. You know what? Never mind. It's a bug on my windshield.
Oh, boy.
Everybody. See, I'm trying to be serious here
and I'm with you
save
on that.
America.
I'm with you. That
and this guy wants to be Bob Hope on me.
Yeah, well, you knew that. You knew that was coming.
Wait. There's a guy at PA who saw it.
He saw it. Where at? Right here?
Line 5.
Paul, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Hey, Trev, it's Paulie from Solon. How you doing?
Good, Paulie.
Hey, I'm a salesman. I was in central Pennsylvania this morning, and I saw at least 15 of those vapor trails. And when I came in the range to hear you talking about this, it freaked me out.
I mean, anybody that was up this morning, and Paul, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you very much, because people think I'm fooling around here.
No,
anybody that saw this, I can't even convince my own boss, my sports director here, Mike Snyder. He thinks I was on LSD this morning.
I didn't say
haven't
that.
done LSD in 4 Terry, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Good afternoon, Mike.
Good afternoon, Terry.
Hey, we were just up on the roof here in Solon at Bedford Gear, and you can count at least 24 contrails. They're everywhere. And then another thing, we were out golfing out at Oak Knolls this morning, and usually you see like a little Cessna plane flying around. We've seen 12 of them take off and fly all around in groups of 3. I mean, that's crazy. So I don't know if that's got something to do with it, but there had to be something going on somewhere.
Yeah, and it's still going on.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Terry, for that report.
All right, man.
WTAM 1100, you're in the air.
I spent a lot of time sitting in my hot tub looking at the stars. I'm an aviation buff, and amateur astronomy is kind of cool. But one of the things I always like to see is when the space shuttle flies over, they'll tell you on the weather when you can see it, and usually you can see satellites too, right?
Yeah.
Well, I always look for them in the hot tub. Last night at about 9:30, one of them went north to south, and within 10 minutes of that one, I saw one go, southwest to northeast, and I never see them. I've been looking for over a year, and I saw 2 within 10 minutes of each other.
Well, what do you, Mike, I mean, and I don't want to challenge you here. You weren't drinking, were you?
No.
Okay. All right.
Believe it or not, I wasn't that night. But
all right, no Miller High Lifes, right?
Actually, High Life Light. I'm watching the carps.
All right. Well, let me ask you a question. What do you make out of that then? What?
I don't know, Mike. But there was also about 10 times more normal air activity. And like I said, I'm a big aviation buff. Geez, I used to fly. I built probably 1,000-mile airplanes. I'm really into this stuff, and it kind of creeped me out a little bit. I thought nothing of it. I heard all this stuff this morning.
Yeah.
And then now it's like, what the hell's going on? You know.
So you're with me here. You believe something's going on, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know, maybe it's a big. I'm thinking maybe it's like a large-scale military exercise, and the stuff people are calling about planes in formation, contrails that aren't relatively straight, like you said. The only planes that have the agility to hold that kind of tight formation, especially within close proximity to each other, are fighter jets, Mike.
Aha, Snyder. Aha, did you hear that phone call?
I heard that.
All right.
I'm listening
you know
to
what?
everything.
The defense is starting to rest here.
You're going to rest.
Jennifer, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Hey, Triv. I'm
Yeah.
a first-time caller, so be gentle, okay?
Thank you. I'm gentle with all my women.
What I saw was the very end of last week. My husband and I saw it for a couple of days happening. Now, I got to tell you, I'm a military brat, and I grew up on Army bases. And so it doesn't take a military genius to know when there's a mission going on. And we saw for 2 days Chinooks, those big helicopters with the propellers in the front and the back,
Yeah.
like they're carrying vessels. And we saw those for 2 days. We saw them going past our house. Now, we're out here in western Medina County.
Jennifer, since you're a military brat, what do you make of it? Can you give us your opinion?
Well, they were obviously moving something. I mean, something that's large enough for a Chinook to carry. I mean, they just don't put those full of, cotton balls.
So you think there's some type of military operation going on?
Without a doubt. When they're moving that much equipment, it's got to be equipment or something like that. When they're moving that much stuff, there's definitely something.
Mary, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
How are you today?
Yeah, good, Mary, good.
Nervous, I'm sure, huh?
Well, a little, more curious, Mary, than nervous. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, me too.
Yeah.
That's why I'm sitting on 480 in a traffic jam listening to you staring in the skies when I realized what I saw today.
That is?
I saw, well, first of all, on my way 306 to 422, I saw a single Army truck on the road. And then on 422, heading west towards 271 in Solon, I saw 3 Army trucks. And I didn't even think of it until I started listening to you. And it's funny because I do remember saying to myself, my, where are Army trucks coming from? What? Very rarely do you ever see that on any of 422, 480, 77, 271. And I drive them all the time.
I tell you, Mary, this is getting weirder by the minute. It really. Larry, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Hello, Mike.
Yes, Larry.
This is Larry. First-time caller. Listen to you all the time. Truck driver.
Thank you, Larry.
Listen to your show coming from Pittsburgh.
Mm-hmm.
See all them streamers through the sky, just about all the way from Pittsburgh up here. And as I come up by Twinsburg, Solon area, I saw 2 or 3 of those jets laying down some streamers. And hearing those, I lived on around the Ravenna Arsenal, like that other fellow's talking about. They're back in World War II. There used to be some heavy-duty things in there. I don't know what's going on, but don't know if that's part of it, but there's all kind of streamers in that area.
And this is unusual, right, Larry?
I've seen them before, but not like...
Amin.
Yes.
Yes, go ahead, Amin.
How you doing, Mike?
Good.
I was coming back yesterday from MGM. I need your help with the times and the directions. I left there about 1:27. Right after you take the ticket, on a turnpike, coming back to Cleveland.
Right.
I was sitting in a passenger seat. I looked up in the sky, and I seen something shoot straight down. Like within seconds, it disappeared. Something like a shooting star.
Was this at night?
Yeah, that was at night. I left there at 1:30, right after you take the ticket on the turnpike.
Now, this was last night?
That was last night, yes.
And the vapor trails were in the sky this morning. There you go. Let's go to Lisa here. Lisa, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Yeah, can you hear me, Mike?
Yes, I can, Lisa.
Yeah. I was listening this morning, driving in at 7:30 to work, going south on Riverview Road, and saw the same thing that y'all have been talking about, plus the light. Well, I'm driving south again on Riverview Road. I don't think you can see it where you are in Cleveland, but south of Cleveland, there's the same markings in the sky, and there's that light again. And it's definitely a rainbow pattern.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that is. I mean, there's been a lot of explanations about ice crystals and different things like that, but
I know the streaking that you saw. It's doing the same thing right here, and it's south. It looks like it's pretty clear where you are, but south of Cleveland, I'm seeing the same thing that I saw this morning that everybody was calling in about.
Well, I'll be driving home in about 20 minutes. I'm going to be looking in the sky. Yeah. Kevin, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Hey, Mike. I just want to tell you what I saw last night when I was driving home. It was about 10:35, in between 10:35 and 10:45. I was headed south on Route 8 around the Stowe area, which is just north of Akron. And I'm looking south in the sky, and I saw a bluish-green light come straight down, and I thought it was maybe a shooting star, but I've never seen a shooting star go straight down into the earth. And when I got home, I told my wife about it, told her I made a wish for her and everything, but I didn't think anything of it until I heard the show today.
Is that the same thing you think Amin saw?
Who?
The caller that called earlier, did you hear him?
I'm not sure. I've been at work.
He's driving home from Detroit
he was
last
on the turnpike
night.
about 1:30 a.m.
Where were you at?
I was in Stowe, which is north of Akron, and it was about 10:35, 10:45 at night. So it was earlier.
Now he's coming home on the turnpike
At 1:30 a.m. It
Yeah,
must have
I
been two different things.
So it was two different things.
And it didn't look like any shooting star I'd ever seen before.
Yeah.
It looked distinctly different. It didn't have the kind of trail you would expect a shooting star to have. So I thought it was interesting. I talked to my wife about it for a little bit because it stuck out in my mind that much. And then this morning, all the ruckus about it.
Well,
So I'll let you know.
I'm happy you called. Don, you're on the air in WTAM 1100. In the air.
Hi, Mike Megadagos.
I don't want to be in the air.
Megadagos.
First-time caller.
Well, wait a minute. Thank you.
I drive a big truck from Cleveland out to Youngstown every day, Monday through Friday.
All right.
And up until today, I usually carry a laptop with me with a GPS receiver. And up until today, it's worked flawlessly. No problems whatsoever.
Hey, Don, you better tell him what a GPS system is. I don't think he knows what that is.
A GPS system can pinpoint your location on mapping software on a laptop.
Oh, sort of like Lone Star.
Yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
What it does, it triangulates your position and shows you on the map. And up until about between 8 and 9 o'clock this morning, it was working fine. And then all of a sudden, it just lost all communications from all the satellites.
All right.
See that?
Okay. All
See?
right. I mean, if you're listening, do you need any more? Thank you, Don. Lyle, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Hey, I just came across Ohio Turnpike heading east, and I saw something that got me kind of worried. There's a FEMA convoy heading east. There's about 10 big white, looks like recreation vehicles, all in a convoy. I passed them right around the 71 exit.
Where was this at now?
Ohio Turnpike, and I passed them right around the I-71 exit.
Okay.
But they were heading east on the turnpike.
All right. Okay. Lyle, I appreciate the phone call.
All right.
WTAM 1100, you're in the air.
Trev,
Yes.
listen, I never thought about, I've been sitting in my truck for 20 minutes so I don't lose you because I live on the lake and I'm at Lost Nation Airport, just parked.
Okay.
All right. Monday at about 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I got a phone call on my cell phone from from a banker. And, I can't smoke in my office, so I go outside to talk to her, and I'm on the phone, and we're just BSing about things. All of a sudden, I work in Highland Heights, off of right behind Cuyahoga County Airport, so I'm used to planes flying all the time. All of a sudden, an F-18 comes flying right over my head. And I said to her, I couldn't even believe it. I'm like, what the heck is this? This was Monday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, an F-18 flying east to west, right over the airport. And I thought that was so weird because there's planes taking off Cuyahoga County Airport daily. Every 15, 20 minutes there's a plane taking off. And I'm thinking, what is this thing doing right here? And this was Monday at 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah, something's going on around here.
You're right,
Yeah,
there is.
There's
and
definitely.
I never thought anything of it until all of a sudden I heard you talking about it. And I'm like, wow, maybe there is something, legitimate about this.
Bob, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Hey, Mike.
Yes.
Hey, you were talking about the trails up in the sky. It was this morning. It was between 6:15 a.m. and 6:30.
Right.
I was getting ready for work, so I took my dogs out before I left. And the sky I just happened to look up at the sky, and I said to myself, oh, my God. I said, what the heck happened out here last night? There was trails everywhere, Mike. There was literally 4, 5, 6 dozen different trails in the sky.
I know. I saw it too.
It was. I said. Now there's got to be something. I said these can't be airplane trails. It's got to be something else. But then you bring it up, and I'm going, man, I wasn't seeing things.
No, those were fighter plane vapor trails.
It was. I've never seen so many. And just like you said, it was like a checkerboard, and they ran for miles as far as I could see this morning, and they just blanketed the whole sky.
See, they thought that would be gone before the sun came up, but it wasn't, and we saw it as Americans. Now we need to be told the truth.
Exactly. I would be real curious to find out what happened last night.
I would pay a lot of money to find out. Sherry, you're in the air on WTAM 1100. Tell Snyder what you saw.
Well, I didn't see the colors, but I'll tell you, I walked out my front door about 5 to 8,
before I ever started my car and heard what Bill Wills was talking about, the sky, I noticed it immediately how many, well, Art Bell calls them contrails, air vapors, whatever.
Right.
But they were everywhere, and I noticed it and thought to myself, something's going on. And then when I finally started my car and heard the guy talking about the colors, I tried to find those colors because the sun was so bright, I just couldn't, you couldn't look up into the sun. So I never really did see the colors, but I saw the contrails. I'm in Sandusky, which is halfway between Toledo and Cleveland. So obviously, if that guy's 20 miles from Toledo and you're in Cleveland, they were 120 miles.
Oh, Sherry, I got to move, but they were all over Northeast Ohio. Watch this, Knights. Keith, tell Snyder what you saw.
Hey. What'd you see, Keith?
I live in Ashtabula. Got the paper at 5:30 in the morning. Every star in the sky was out this morning, but to the west, it just seemed out. I thought it was maybe like a cloud streak, but now that you've talked about it, that's probably the same thing I saw, were the vapor streaks.
Tell them how many there were.
So I'm going to say probably what I saw from Ashtabula were probably at least a dozen or more in the northwest.
Walt, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Hey, Mike.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mike, what you saw this morning are known as chemtrails. I saw them this morning when I went outside. I called my wife out. I told her, I says, look at this. It looks like gossamer or something in the sky. Contrails evaporate. These are chemtrails. The reason they're up there is because, have you ever heard of the HAARP project?
No.
It's a high-frequency active auroral research program, HAARP. What they do is they got this program in Alaska.
Walt.
No, seriously, Mike.
Walt. Wait, Walt. Hold on one second. You're a planned phone call from the government, aren't you?
No.
Yeah, you're trying to explain these fighter planes that were over our sky. Walt, admit it, Walt. Walt, I saw right through you, Walt. Walt, you're a plant. Walt, you're a plant from the government, Walt.
I want to hear what he says, Trev.
They were up there, Mike. What they do is they put these chemtrails up in the sky so that they can bounce these signals from HAARP over the horizon. Mike, they mix ammonium hydroxide and barium.
Walt, you're a plant for the government, aren't you?
No, Mike,
yes, you are, Walt. Walt, I can't take it. No, Walt, you're a plant for the government. I will not let that propaganda go over these areas. Kevin, you're in the air on WTAM 1100.
Okay, Trev, I live north of Detroit on Lake St. Clair in Michigan. Southridge Air Force Base is north of Detroit. I heard them scramble military jets last night. The last time I've seen anything of this sort was September 12th when they had the AWACS planes over Chicago, and the wind would drift the perfect circles of these surveillance planes over my house. I could see it every morning. I'd see the circles, perfect circles, where they would, they surveillance Chicago, Illinois, with the AWACS planes.
All right, Kevin.
Yes, sir.
This is very important to me because people think I'm crazy here. I know something went on last night, okay? I'm not stupid. Again, reiterate, where are you, and tell us what you know.
If you look at a map, you will see that Michigan looks like a mitten. Everybody's a big joke to everybody. Right by the thumb area, under the thumb, there's a lake called Lake St. Clair. It's not one of the Great Lakes. It's a smaller lake. At the north end of that lake up there, where the river meets it, St. Clair River, there's an Air Force base called Southridge Air Force Base. It's a big refueling tankers. They fly a big bunch of refuelers, to refuel planes. Last night I heard them scramble about 4:30 in the morning. And when they take off, you can know when they take off, but when they scramble, they're gone. I mean, quick, and they're just like a rocket. And last night about 4:30 they did.
How many do you think went up?
I couldn't tell. I've seen them take off 3 abreast at times. So if they took off, if I heard 5, it could have been 15. I mean, I don't know. You hear it, it's like, whatever, you just kind of wait for the big one to hit you, I guess.
But, Kevin, the last time this happened was September 12th, the day after September 11th.
I hear them scramble quite often, sometimes, but the last time I've seen so many vapor trails was September 12th, 13th, and 14th when the AWACS planes were monitored in Chicago. Remember how they had all them planes and they were doing all the circling? Every morning I'd wake up and there'd be 15 or 20 perfect circles where they were just flying reconnaissance over Chicago, keeping an eye on Chicago for any kind of attacks.
Kevin, I could kiss you on the lips for helping me prove that.
It's 38 states and half of Canada, sir.
Thank you, Kevin.
Good luck to you.
I love you, buddy.
Okay, We love you too, man. Bye-bye.
You think I'm full of it, don't you? I told you something went on last night. I told you.
Jeff Rense published his article on this same incident at http://renze.com/general57/ohio.htm:. Renze.com, Strange Rumors of Northern Ohio Activity. By Kenny Young. UFO at fuse.net. 10-2-4. Renze.com, http://renze.com/general57/ohio.htm right parenthesis. October 2nd, 04. Unusual situation reported in northern Ohio. Apparently on Wednesday morning, September 22nd, numerous callers to Cleveland, Ohio radio station 1100 WTAM reported a rainbow-like aerial situation similar to a sundog. The situation complicates, however, as others begin describing unusual contrails, jet scrambles and other military activity all across northern Ohio. One caller, Ammon, describes an unusual light seen the night before September 22 while driving home from Detroit around 1 a.m. while another caller, Kevin, claims the similar sighting of a bluish-green light around 10:35 p.m. on Route 8 near the Stowe, Ohio area, north of Akron. At daybreak the morning of September 22, northeastern Ohio skies were allegedly ripped with jet vapor trails. One caller, Don, is a truck driver with a route between Cleveland and Youngstown, and alleges that his GPS, Global Positioning System, that pinpoints his mapping location on a laptop computer, began malfunctioning between 8 and 9 a.m., although working flawlessly beforehand. Stranger still, another caller named Dave claimed that Route 12, a south/north road out of Fostoria, Ohio, was blocked by tons of Army trucks and traffic was being diverted. This activity was briefly referenced on the Cleveland UFO list by George Pindro, but with no new information. Secondly, I did receive 3 email advisements regarding this activity from various contacts, along with one copied message from June that states, "I talked with my mom today, and she told me that on Channel 19 at 5 p.m., Wednesday, September 22, the TV news anchor said that there were hundreds of reports of UFOs all over the lakefront area of Ohio." He said that after the commercial breaks he would give the details. My mom was very curious and waited to hear the news. When the news came back on, nothing. So the story was squashed. I talked to a few people at work today, and yes, they had heard about the sightings. Everyone was talking about it. So lots of people here in Ohio heard about it before the news was suppressed. According to my mom, the TV anchor said that people saw what looked like a huge cloud with rainbow colors along with many UFOs that were not disguising themselves as clouds. I also learned that fighter jets were sent out after them. Note, I do not know June who copied me on her comments to a few other researchers, but she signed her name with the addition of "in the light," and I cannot vouch for her comments KY. Thirdly, a comment about the WTAM radio activity was filed to the National UFO Reporting Center, NUFORC, website, but also containing no new information. Further, Mrs. Donnie Blessing, Southern Ohio State Director for MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, spoke with a gentleman from Cleveland named Ken who contacted the Cincinnati UFO hotline, 513-588, 4548, on September 28 to advise of a UFO sighting in Canada on September 21. While taking the information, Ken advised that his wife knew of the strange reports on WTAM radio station on September 22, and further informed of UFOs and numerous, presumably, responding military helicopters seen near the Perry nuclear power station. This specific detail has been considered most intriguing. At this time, we know of no substantive information to link this reference of a UFO situation near the Perry nuclear power station to the September 22 activity reported by WTAM radio. Oddly, there was previous UFO activity reported on the record by a Lake County law officer referenced in conjunction with the Perry nuclear facility in June of 2004. That report is located online at http://home.fuse.net/UFO/Willoughby04.html. So unusual was this September 22 activity that radio station WTAM created a special web page for the situation. The page contains audio clips of the many callers that are available from the exact URL location, http://www.wtam.com/triv/index.html, along with the following comment by talk show host Mike Trevisano. What is happening in the skies over northern Ohio? On Wednesday morning, September 22, ND, 2004, a caller rang the WTAM morning show, Wills and Coleman in the morning, to report the sightings of strange colors in the sky. Other callers reported seeing the same thing, while others tried to describe or explain the image. Afternoon host Mike Trevisano was curious and ventured into his backyard to see for himself. Although he did not see the lights, he did see something peculiar: jet contrails all over the crystal clear Cleveland sky. The contrails extended in all directions as far as the eyes can see. The contrails formed a checkerboard pattern. In all of Trevisano's years on this planet, he had never seen anything like it. Or maybe it was he just never noticed it. He played the phone calls from that morning and mentioned his observations on his number 1 rated afternoon show that day and asked the question, what the heck is going on? The callers responded. Below are some of the calls that were made to the show on the 22nd. While Triv's question was never definitively answered, conclusions can be made. What do you think? We do not know how long the WTAM web page and subsequent audio clips of the callers will remain posted and active. If you have any information regarding a UFO situation taking place near the Perry Nuclear Power Station involving military helicopters, or a jet scramble in response to a perceived UFO situation near the Lake County facility, please call at the contact information given below. Filed, October 2, 2004. Kenny Young, UFO Research. http://home.fuse.net/UFO Cincinnati UFO Hotline equals 513 588 to 4548. As we can see, there is hardly any limits to how much information there is to get on people having seen UFO activity over Lake Erie. I personally believe that the reason why Michael's footage and what was going on at Lake Erie took off so fast, and got out on YouTube, going viral so quickly, is that those who tried to stop him in the beginning decided it was better to leave him alone. It was too late to do something drastic, because just like Michael says, it would draw even more attention to the story. However, Michael's story is not only about mysterious lights over Lake Erie. If the government had reasons to be concerned over Michael's original footage going public, which they obviously were, they had even more reasons to pull their hair over his case a few years later, as we shall see. But first, let's review what is so special about these lights over Lake Erie and other parts of the world. We know of at least a few reasons why the government did not want too much public attention on the East Lake UFOs. They wanted to investigate this on their own, without the place being invaded by UFO enthusiasts. Just like Dr. Strand said back in Norway, the way these lights operate may be a source of energy for us humans to use in the future. Of course, Dr. Strand was thinking in a positive way when he said that, but there are always factions of the government, or amongst those who control it, who want the technology for themselves and not to be used for public benefit. The other reason why the PTB, powers that be, want to put the lid on the orb phenomenon is that they understand that these lights are not just aerial phenomena, but alien in nature, and quite multi/interdimensional. And in spite of the fact that a disclosure would reveal a lot of government secrets that would alarm the public, it's also very hard to explain how aliens, who most people think are very physical like us, can be interdimensional, and appear and disappear in front of people's eyes. And if such star races have evil intentions towards mankind, how can we defend ourselves against them? And even worse, if people find out that malevolent star races can actually insert themselves, as nano beings, into some people's heads, how can we defend ourselves against those? The government would not have an answer and would not be elected for the next 4 years. Of course, the highest level of government knows what these orbs are and where they come from, but the whole political system is built like a hierarchy on a need-to-know basis, that's well known. You need a certain clearance to access certain information, and no one has the whole picture. This is why one level of the government is working on a certain project regarding phenomena such as these orbs, while another, higher level, has a totally different agenda which they are working on. So, it was probably a mix of all this which made the PTB take action against Michael and physically beat him up, and intimidate him on other occasions. When they noticed it was too late to intervene, they let go off Michael, because there was not much they could do. The cat was already out of the box. Maybe they thought it would all end here, and after a year or two, people would forget about the orbs, and everything would go back to normal again from the government's point of view. Little did they know what would come next. Michael wasn't finished yet. After the CBS interview in 2007, the East Lake UFOs, as the phenomenon now was coined, became well known in the UFO community, but also amongst people in general, as we can see from the amount of viewers Michael has had to his YouTube account. But soon enough, the story developed much further. As I have already covered in my first article about Michael, in the May 6, 2011, PFC paper number 2, The Remarkable Michael Lee Hill Case, http://westbenry.com/remarkable-michael-lee-hall-case.htm right parenthesis comma both Michael Lee Hill and the Virginia residing Terrell Copeland have a history of being abducted by aliens. Already as a little child, Michael was visited by the Greys. Apparently, they, and what seems to be the military, were abducting him not only in his childhood, but also as an adult. At one point, he was waking up in the middle of an abduction, while they were still doing an operation on him, and once he got conscious enough, he felt an incredible pain. The man he saw when he opened his eyes was quite human in appearance, and when Michael screamed in pain and said, "For heaven's sake, I'm awake," the man said, "Sorry, I thought you were asleep," whereafter he was given anesthesia, and Michael fell asleep again and has no more memories from the incident. Just before I started writing my initial article on Michael, Bill Burns and his UFO hunters had interviewed Terrell Copeland regarding his UFO experiences. After the interview, Bill Burns, stunningly enough, tells Terrell that he is an alien hybrid, and that he is sure about it. How he could be so certain is unknown to me up to this date. Bill must have done some research on that and noticed the exact things in Terrell that identifies a human/alien hybrid. One thing we know made him certain about Terrell's hybrid status was the CK level, creatine kinase, in his blood. It was extraordinary high. It superoxygenates the bloodstream. A super high level of CK indicates renal and heart failure, but also leads to severe muscle damage in a person. The normal level is between 60-400 ul, while Terrell's level was 2000 ul. Still, he was able to function like any healthy human being, and he had no signs of renal or heart failure, and no muscle damage whatsoever. He is a medical phenomenon. Bill Burns had also heard about Michael's sightings and noticed that the UFOs he had filmed were identical with the ones Terrell had seen. So Bill put 2 and 2 together, visited Michael, took him to do a blood test, and when he was at the hospital, waiting for his blood to be drawn, he was introduced to Terrell for the first time. Both their bloods were drawn that day, and it showed that both Terrell and Michael had an extremely high CK level in their blood. Michael's was elevated to around 2000 ul as well. So Bill Burns explained to a perplexed Michael that he, too, is a hybrid. All this was filmed and aired on UFO Hunters. The doctors could not explain this and told the film team, "This is on film as well, that if a person has this high level of CK in their blood, they can't function." Still, both Michael and Terrell are as healthy as can be. Even a Harvard professor was involved in this and was stunned over the results. Although this experience was quite stunning to Michael, it actually explained a few things that had happened 3 years earlier, in 2008. A friend took him to New York to attend the annual Sirius Rising Festival. Interestingly enough, it has the name Sirius in the title, something that is also well documented in my first Michael Lee Hill article in The First Level of Learning. This New Age festival lasts a few days, and people who are into New Age, metaphysics, and spirituality in general, meet and have fun. However, in the midst of everything, Michael made friends with a big guy who was also attending the festival. He said his name was Loki, and that someone there wanted to meet Michael. So Loki took Michael to a round gazebo, which they entered. Inside were a male and a female, sitting on a beautiful bed, which took up most of the space in the gazebo. Michael felt quite disoriented while he was inside, oddly enough, and wasn't even sure where the exit was at times. He was not drunk or high on any substance. The strange thing with the male and the female was that Michael could not see their faces. Everything from shoulder and up was blurry. He found this very strange, but stayed anyway. The reader can review the whole story in my original paper, but to make a short synopsis, the male started interrogating Michael about a coast-to-coast appearance in the Lake Erie UFOs. The coast-to-coast appearance they were focusing on was the one where David Sareda was interviewed, talking about a testimony from Boyd Bushman, a retired senior scientist at Lockheed Martin, regarding UFOs and alien technology used by Lockheed Martin and other big corporations. The male said this interview had upset many insiders, and wanted to know if Michael knew anything about this. The Bushman interview is extremely interesting and revealing. I posted it on my blog, and it can be watched here by following one of the links, http://battleoferth.wordpress.com/2011/04/17/secret-UFO-Hyphen-Boyd-Martin/right. As the conversation went on, the male got really upset with Michael, who now started to feel quite uncomfortable, to say the least. He told the male that he was not the one doing the interview, it was done by someone else. Then the male calmed down and decided to test Michael to see how much he knew. A device was put to his forehead. It was supposed to remove some memory blocks. Afterwards, the male told Michael he was the king of the Anunnaki and that Michael is one of them. Michael got the feeling this male was Marduk Ra himself, the king of Anunnaki, the Sirian star race, on Earth. Marduk, if it was him, said there was a plan in changing the Anunnaki leadership on Earth and a new change of plans, all supposed to take place before 2012, a statement that gives more validity to my thought that the change in leadership is already taking place in the nano world, just like I said in a previous paper. Marduk said that Michael has a big role to play in this new game. Before Michael left the gazebo, he quickly turned around, because he wanted to see the faces of the male and the female. Shocked, he noticed that they looked like gargoyles. The next morning, Michael was still at the Sirius Rising Festival. An attractive young male and female came walking up to him and they said they were the persons he'd been talking to the night before. They now looked like any human being, although they obviously were not. Still, they could mingle with everybody on the festival without standing out as looking different. Michael and the couple spent the whole day together and Michael started feeling relaxed with them. It ended with that they'd keep in touch. Marduk, whom Michael now said was a beautiful soul, or at least acted that way, told him that now that they knew Michael was one of them, he will be safe and protected. This was Michael's first encounter with the Sirian Anunnaki. To make a long story short, again, the whole thing can be read in my original Michael Lee Hill paper. Michael then had encounters, mostly per emails, with the Australian SAALM, Supreme Anunnaki Assembly of Lord Marduk, and LPGC, who are supposedly working on different sides in the conflict of ownership of planet Earth, but as we shall see, are really not. So, a perplexed Michael had to go through a lot of different changes and surprises after the initial meeting with Marduk. Whether this being was Marduk or not is quite impossible to say, because these star beings can shapeshift. Their gargoyle faces and the difficulty Michael had to distinguish their faces at first, indicates to me that they showed themselves off this way on purpose. Marduk himself is not gargoyle-like, but looks quite human, just like the male Michael met the day after, but he could have showed himself off to Michael as an Alpha Draconian, or similar, to prove that he was alien. Syrians, meaningly, have never showed their real faces here on Earth, even when shape-shifting. But like this wasn't enough, other strange things happened to him as well. Friends, whom he had had for years, started having their faces disappear in front of Michael when they were sitting in the hot tub together, and another time, a girlfriend he had used some special device that she put around Michael's privates, and the device had a very sharp needle-like edge, with which she stung him right into his penis. It looked like a small metal tube that had been bent into the shape of a heart, and the bottom of the heart tube came down into a small blade/scalpel. Michael told me you wouldn't even know it was sharp unless you really looked at it. When she used it on him, it felt like being stung by a hornet. Thus, she took a blood sample of him and ran away with it. It sounds quite obvious both to me and Michael whom she must have been working for. Much of what has been brought up in my papers regarding Michael Lee Hill may sound too fantastic to some readers, and I can understand that. But personally, I know Michael well enough to guarantee that what he has been telling me, and others, is the truth as he knows it, and the experiences he has had are his own as he remembers them. This situation of his is complicated enough for him not to exaggerate it, or alter it in any shape or form. He does not want confusion, if anything, he wants clarity. It would have been enough to end everything here, and it would still make a most remarkable story. But as a matter of fact, the story does not end here, it has just started.